Trading has closed on May 4th, 2022. We always start with our disclaimer, review our calls, and then make some predictions for tomorrow, May the 5th. Well, this is my trading plan for tomorrow. You're free to use it, but if you do, just remember I can be completely wrong. Any trade you make should be at your own risk. Please tell your friends about the channel, and if you want my webinar, please make certain I have the address, because I can't send it to you without the address. We had a few calls. We had a target 4150.13. We said that didn't have to print today, but usually you don't have to wait too long. It did print. Now these aren't only targets, they're also support levels. You can see this red line. Here's support and here's the retest of support. So we got that. We said if we didn't gap over yesterday's high, which we didn't, that we should see lower prices, but that didn't guarantee a lower close. So that one worked. And we look for the pattern with the early low, and tomorrow should have the early high. And this is just a review of our calls. The main call was I thought we completed an ABC down. We should now make an ABC up. I know a lot of people were calling for a crash here. I thought it was just the opposite, and I still think so. Well, let's look at today's MEJT signals. MEJT said this drop was false. Price would retrace. Said the same thing about that drop. Said this rally was false, price it would retrace, and said this drop was false and price it would retrace. So all that's played out. We now have a challenge for the technical analyst, and a lot's going to depend on whether we can break through this high or whether we break through this trend line first. I think it's possible to interpret this as a cup with handle, and the handle's sloping up. Now it doesn't have to stop sloping up, it can keep going up. But the rule is, if this trend line breaks significantly, this whole thing should retrace. Now it hasn't broken, maybe it won't. I just find that kind of hard to believe after a move like this, but if that happens, that's what the rule said. We'll see what happens if it breaks the other way in just a minute. Let's just review some resistance we have here. I really have trouble counting these waves, but suppose this is an ABC. If you look at this last move, this could be A, this could be B, this could be C, and if you set A at 23.6, C is right at 100. It's not the commonest fib ratio, but there is one. But if that's the right count, what's really impressive, if this is your ABC, you measure the height of C, it's exactly equal to the height of A. Let's change the color to make that more obvious. I mean, if that's your A, it's perfect. A, B, C, and A equals C with an ABC pattern right at the top. And that's not all. I've relabeled the waves here. I used to have this gray A, gray B, gray C. I now think it's A, B, C. To make gray A, we stopped right at this trend line. And not only does that trend line connect to those lines, it connects down to here to the origin of this move after the COVID low. So we have a trend line that goes back 2 years, and we've gone straight up to it but not through it. And the rule is either you gap over the trend line or the trend line wins. So we have an ABC with C equals A going right up to but not through the trend line. It's major resistance. I think we'll break through at some point, just as I think we'll break through this at some point. But if we're going to break through it tomorrow, you really have to gap over it. Now here's how I'm counting this. This is what we said last week when we called this as a low. We stopped right in the fourth wave of lesser degree. This is really strong resistance, and the fact that you have a wall into the close, which often gaps down when the market reopens, makes it hard to hold a long overnight. Now what happens if we break through? What if we don't gap down? What if we do gap over this? I was looking for an ABC, but I think this could easily turn into a wave X and go straight up. There's no rule against it, and we have sentiment readings at some of the most extreme readings I can recall seeing. And what's even more positive is some really top analysts whose opinions I really respect are all negative here and calling for crashes. And as I've said before, some of the best calls I've made have been when nobody agrees with me. I don't think we're going to crash at all. I think, if anything, we're going to have a huge rally. But that doesn't mean we have to go up tomorrow. Thursday's pattern has the early high. We could gap down. Typically, it's a rally day with a final hour high. Failure is a straight line drop. We rallied to, but not through major resistance. Either we gap over the line or the line wins, meaning if we don't gap over it but trade past it anyway, the rally should retrace. There's wave balance at today's high. Nasdaq-McClellan oscillator has gone over its upper Bollinger Band if we reverse through it, and that hasn't happened. But if we do, if it's a bad day tomorrow, a sell signal is given. Bulls need to gap over today's high to continue the rally unabated. If that doesn't happen, a drop here could be severe, giving back today's gains. But if that does happen, if we gap over this high, we could have a straight line move higher. It doesn't mean we have to, but it certainly is possible. Sentiment indicators are those seen only at major lows. So even if we drop sharply tomorrow, and that's entirely possible, but even if we drop sharply tomorrow, I look for a strong rally here before the decline resumes. So if we break this, it's a very negative pattern over the short term. We gap over it, it's very positive over the short term. But regardless of what happens, I think this low we had here on, I guess this was Friday. Is that Friday? Monday. The low we had Monday, I think, was a major low, and we should have a major rally from here. Now, I will tell you that this is the FOMC price. We've already had our three-leg whipsaw. Since that completed, the three-leg whipsaw target of 39.95 from the March meeting gets canceled. They don't all work, and that one didn't work. But this one's been completed. But usually the first move after the announcement, which was higher, tells you the next major move in the market, and that's higher. And even though we could have a big drop tomorrow, give this all back, it's possible if this line breaks. Even if that happened, I think much higher prices are going to be printing. But if we gap over this, I mean, there's no telling how high we can go. And that's today's call.